Hello, and welcome to the Believe Show. I'm thrilled you're here. We're delighted that you're joining us to talk about how virtual meetings do not need to be boring. So let me tell you a little bit about Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Senya. Thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted that you're here. So I'm going to tell everybody a few things about you, and then we'll get started. So first things first, this is Melissa, and she is, let me share with you, she is, dun, 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 she is the lead facilitator and founder of Creative Sandbox Solutions. And you see here part of her website. I'll also put the link I'll drop the link in so you can see it. This is a Silicon Valley based consultancy that specializes in helping teams communicate exactly what we're talking about today, communicate for influence and impact, and to take the board out of boardrooms, both virtual and 3D. Melissa and I recently realized that we're somewhat neighbors, even though we would not be able to see each other during this time, but we're in a similar part of Silicon Valley. Melissa is also the author of an acclaimed book on creativity, and she's known for creating impactful, memorable experiences that teach key skills while being fun at the same time. And we want to learn how to do that, so that's why we're here with her today. We're thrilled. So hello. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Senya. Thanks for having me.
Totally a pleasure. All right, we're going to start with the 3 silly questions. Ready?
Ready.
What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
How close did you get?
Well, in high school, I was an intern at a vet, I think my freshman or sophomore year. And I basically transferred lotion from big bottles into small bottles. And it was really boring. And I realized that just was not the job for me.
I loved horses, and my first job when I was 13 years old was in exchange for horseback riding lessons. I would shovel the hay. So that was my first job. So I'm with you. What is one of your favorite foods?
I'm going to say farinata, which is a flatbread made out of chickpea flour.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, it's really yummy.
You can get it at Indian restaurants sometimes, right?
I don't know. It's an Italian dish. And I don't think I've ever gotten it at a restaurant. I've only made it myself. And it's super easy. It's just chickpea flour, water, olive oil, and like rosemary if you want, rosemary, salt, little pepper.
And then you bake it.
And you bake it in a really hot oven.
You didn't even know you would be getting a recipe today. So bonus for today. Awesome. I'm going to try that. I have chickpea flour. That's awesome.
Yeah. The trick is you put it on a really hot skillet, like a cast iron skillet, or it doesn't have to be cast iron, but put it on a hot skillet on the stove first, and then put it in a really hot oven, like a 500-degree oven.
We want to hear back from all of you, whether you've tried it. So let us know in the next couple of days. Awesome. We've never had this before. Thank you. And the last question. High school can be a challenging time. What was a good part of high school for you?
Let's see. I was good at school. So I would say I got good grades. So I would say classes were my favorite part of high school.
Good. I can relate to that. Good.
Yeah.
And now switching gears, and what all of our people who are joining us today want to talk a ton with you about. Virtual meetings don't have to be boring. Can you give us a little more color on this? What is it that you believe that others in your field would not agree with?
Yeah. So the challenge with virtual meetings is that most people think, well, I'm just going to take what I normally do in person and just sort of cram it into Zoom or wherever they're holding their virtual meeting, right? And that doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because when we're in a virtual space, everything is different. First of all, people are sitting in front of their computers, so their email, their Facebook, their whatever is literally just a click away. So when you are in person, that's not the situation, right? You're sitting in a circle. You are totally removed from all the distractions that people have when they're sitting in front of a computer. That is not the case when you're having a virtual meeting. People also just do not have the same attention span that they do when you're in an in-person setting. You can have a day-long meeting in an in-person setting, because you are going to have built-in breaks. You're going to go send everybody to take a walk and talk or something like that. You can't do that in a virtual setting. So it just doesn't work the same way. It's kind of like saying, we're going to take this book that was written in Greek and we're just going to like rewrite it in English. No problem. You can't do that. It just doesn't work the same way, right? So you have to just use a completely different mindset when you translate something into virtual. So instead of taking your, say, day-long experience and turning it into a day-long virtual, no. You take your day-long experience and you turn it into multiple shorter experiences on virtual with time in between.
What are some of those mindsets that we need to have if we want to create amazing virtual meetings, whether a 1 hour or an extended one?
Right. So take Zoom, for example. So we're not on Zoom, we're on StreamYard, but I work in Zoom primarily because that's the platform that I'm most familiar with. When the developers who developed Zoom developed it, they had certain things in mind for how to use Zoom. When you go to use Zoom for your meeting, you don't have to use Zoom in the way that the developers developed it. You can use it in a different way. So for example, we have the ability here in StreamYard to rename ourselves, I have Melissa Dinwiddie, you've got Senya my name down, you've got your name there. Same thing in Zoom. You have the ability to rename yourself. The people who developed Zoom had specific ideas for how you were going to use that function, that feature. You as a facilitator can use that feature however you want. So for example, I might have people come into the meeting and say, rename yourself for, what's the last thing that you ate and how you feel right now. So, or how you feel right now and the last thing you ate. So maybe I'm a happy oatmeal, right? And somebody else is grumpy mashed potatoes or something like that. So that's just one example great salad. So one example for how you might use that rename feature that the people who created Zoom, that's not what they had in mind when they came up with that rename feature, but that's something that we could use. So I might also say, all right, I'm going to come up with a word and I want you to totally rename yourself, strip out your name. And instead of your name, I'm going to ask you to put in the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the word pickle. There you go. Now imagine that you have a room of 10 people. You've got a team of 10 people. And 10 people, each person puts in something that word brings to mind for them. Mm-hmm. They're not all going to put dill. They're each going to put something different. So from that 60-second little exercise, and you say, pickle, and then I would say another word, maybe it's automobile, it doesn't matter, any word, pick a word. You do that exercise for maybe 5 minutes, and you learn all sorts of things about your teammates. So boom, you've got this very brief little fun team building activity, all using that rename feature built into Zoom. Now that's an activity that you can't do in the same way in person.
Mm-hmm. Totally. What's another feature of Zoom that you misuse on purpose?
Let's see. All right. So we are stuck in this little Brady Bunch grid, right? So you and I are in a Brady Bunch grid right now. It's just a small one. It's just you and I. So you and I can pass objects back and forth. So I can say, all right, so I've got the mic right now. I've got the mic. So I'm going to pass the mic to you.
I got it.
Great.
Got it. Thank you. I got the mic.
So that's a fun way to take advantage of the fact that we're in these little boxes and play with that and make our experience together a little bit more engaging and fun. So instead of saying, okay, Senya, it's your turn to talk.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to get the mic from someone.
Right. So now, like, it's your turn to talk, Senya. I'm passing the mic to you.
Got it.
It just makes it a little more engaging, a little more fun, right?
Yeah. What about a big question I have for you, Melissa? Because I love this topic. I follow your website. I know you post specific recommendations on LinkedIn for things to do. What about when you really need to both convey content and have fun? How do you merge those two?
Right. So that's actually the core of how I facilitate. And what I do is I start with what is the end goal that the client is trying to achieve. So for example, my flagship program is called Communicating for Influence. And the goal is to help specifically the target audience that I'm working with at the moment is researchers, research teams, and data science teams primarily, although I work with other populations as well, but I do a lot of work with research teams and data science teams. So these are folks who are having, they have a lot of really complex insights, complex information that they're trying to communicate to other people. And maybe they're not so skilled in the diplomacy department, shall we say. So they need to really strengthen those muscles. So I've developed this program that teaches all of these various different types of skills for diplomacy, for condensing a lot of information down into like a headline, those types of things. And the way that I do that is for each of these different outcomes, there's an exercise that we do or an activity. And it's really basically a game that I have everybody play. The game may take 2 minutes or 5 minutes. And then we come back together. And usually it's sending people off into a breakout room in duos or trios. And then we come back and we debrief. And the debrief is basically a discussion where I ask questions that, prompt them to have insights about how does what you just did relate to what you do at work, how you interact with your cross-functional teams, things like that. They have these light bulb moments. And because they just had this really fun, maybe confusing experience that maybe made them laugh, it's very memorable. And they might think, what does this have to do with work? And then they make that connection. Oh my gosh, now I'm going to remember this. The next time I interact with my cross-functional teams, I'm going to remember this and my behavior is going to change now.
Can you give us an example of one of these games in a breakout room?
Yeah. So one of the foundational concepts that we work with is a concept from the world of improv called yes and. So, which is basically the idea of accepting offers. So in the world of improv, if you're on stage with somebody, anything is an offer. Anything that happens, anything that your scene partner says or does, or maybe somebody in the audience coughs, that just happened. Whatever it is, it just happened. And as an improviser, your job is to accept the reality that that just happened and respond to it and build on it. Okay, so that's the idea of accepting offers. So one of the activities that I do very early on in my program, Communicating for Influence, uses that concept. And so I send people off in small groups, and their job is to plan a party. The company has given them an unlimited budget to plan a party, unlimited. And the first round, each person has to come up with an idea for what they're going to do. What's this party? What are they going to do for the party? What do they want? So, maybe we should have a band, or we should have balloons, or, whatever their idea is. Each person contributes an idea one at a time. And as they contribute their idea, they have to start with no.
Oh, really? Okay. So
they start with no, and then we come back and do a little quick debrief. How was that? Usually it doesn't go so well.
Yeah.
So then they go back out, the second round, brand new budget, new party. This time they start with yes, but.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So somebody suggests we should have pizza. The next person says, yes, but we should da-da-da-da-da. Yes, but. We come back, debrief that. How did it go? Usually not so great. Then they go back again, third party, brand new budget. Again, unlimited. This time, each person who starts, suggests an idea, gets to start with yes and. they have that experience, they come back and debrief, and it goes a whole lot better when they start with yes and.
Yeah.
So we talk about that concept, and that is woven throughout the entire program of this yes and mindset. And how can we bring that yes and spirit to every encounter, even when you know that an idea that somebody is presenting is not going to work?
Mm-hmm.
Because often people just need to be validated. And if you respond with no or yeah, but the person who's presenting the idea feels rejected and blocked. And that's not a way to establish, to build influence, to just reject and block somebody, right? So anyway, that's an example of an activity.
So you're saying if someone on a team in a real life situation brings an idea, you could actually say, yes, that's really valuable and I'll consider it. Or yes, we can explore that. Even if you might know it might not work, but there could be a later point where everybody sees that it's not working. But you're just saying, let's say this could be valuable, or thank you for bringing it. Am I following?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And when you use that yes and response, it may lead to new ideas, even if that idea that the person presented is a non-starter. Bringing that yes and mindset to their idea might lead to some, third idea that nobody would have thought of before if you hadn't responded in that way.
Just letting you know that people are saying they're liking the use yes rather than yes, but somebody saying hello to us from Mexico, and we have a question for you later on about the bread. So we'll ask that later, but your bread recipe at the beginning. But to keep going with this, so Melissa, let's say you have a 1 hour with a group. What does your 1 hour look like in terms of content versus interactivity? How often do you build in the interactivity, like the naming yourself or like the breakout rooms or other fun things like that?
So my sessions are pretty much it's all woven together. So the content and the interactivity are kind of inseparable. I don't, for the most part, I don't do PowerPoints. I don't do lecture.
I know, I love that. And following you on LinkedIn, you say, I do not. I just don't put anything up on the screen. It's either me or it's people going off into breakout rooms. Am I following you accurately? That's what I'm noticing from what you post.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that I never present anything on the screen at all, but the content is through the activities.
Yeah.
I share a little intro of, empathy is really important for influence, and we're going to do an activity that strengthens the empathy muscle. Here's how it works, that kind of thing. And then I send everybody off, and then we come back and we debrief. That's basically how my workshops work.
So it keeps going. They're back, you debrief, another exercise. Back.
Right.
What's the largest group that you have seen this be effective with?
I'm working right now on a program that it's a training. Actually, it's a little bit different situation, but this will be for between 100 and 250 people. And
again, you're going to break them out into lots of breakout rooms of about 2 to 3 people. Is that what you're planning?
Well, this is a little bit different scenario because this is actually training people to use some hardware and software. So it's a bit different.
But you're still not going to make it boring.
That's the goal, right? To make it fun so that they all come away feeling like this was the most fun virtual meeting I've been to all year.
I love that. I love when you say that, and I love when people think that it's kind of my responsibility. I have 10 people coming. It's my responsibility that they're going to have a blast.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. I have so many questions for you, but I'm going to ask just one and kind of lead to our exit questions. Do you mix people up in breakout rooms too? So do you sometimes keep them together, or do you sometimes mix them up into different groups?
Yeah, I love that question. So the Communicating for Influence program, I tend to have them go with different folks throughout, because that one is a lot about team development as well. So that's what typically the client wants folks, wants it to be a team development experience. So there's a lot of mixing so that people get the experience of being with different folks throughout. It all depends on what the client needs are. So if it's a deep dive, sensitive topics type of a thing, then it might be sticking with the same person throughout the course of a session, because you want to develop a really close connection and a deep trust with one person over the course of the session. So it really, everything starts with what is the client's and what's the desired outcome.
Mm-hmm. Is there any one favorite additional tool that you would like to share with us that you tend to find is very effective and very fun?
Well, there's a couple, do you mean activity or?
Yes, the kinds of things that you would do as a facilitator of a virtual meeting.
Yeah, there's one activity that I do quite frequently that I used to do in person that translates really well to virtual. I lead creativity retreats that, in the before times, I would lead 3 times a year. And I do lead them virtually as well. And I love this activity. I do it in my Communicating for Influence program as well. And I do it at all my creativity retreats. And this is, it's a beautiful activity for building the empathy muscle, strengthening that empathy muscle. I call it don't tell anybody, but I call it the present time dance. Don't tell anybody because they get really intimidated when they hear the word dance. There's actually no dancing involved, so don't worry. But the way that it works is that it's a main room activity. It's a beautiful connection activity to do like first thing when everybody arrives. And the way it works is that one at a time, everybody gets an opportunity to do a sound and movement combination that expresses how they feel right now in present time. And then everybody else copies them. That's how it goes. So I might say, like, this is me. This is how I feel, right? And I always go first. The reason is the facilitator always goes first to show, like, this is a vulnerable activity, right? To show that I can be goofy. And if I give permission to be goofy, then it allows you to be goofy as well. And then I would call on, by throwing an invisible ball, call on the leader, like the manager in the team, to go next, because they're sort of like the big kahuna, right? And so if they, be a little bit goofy too, then that gives permission to the rest of the group to be goofy. So this is me doing my sound and movement combination right now. This is how I feel right now in present time. I might do something like this. Something like that. And then everybody else, and I would say, okay, everybody else, you're now going to copy me. All right, here we go. Great. Okay, and now I'm going to take some air and I'm going to smush it into a ball. And then now I'm going to throw it to you. Senya, are you ready to catch the ball? Here it goes. Great.
Okay, so how I feel and the sound I want to make is
great. And now you can throw the ball back to me. Oh man, you got a powerful throw.
That's awesome. And you're getting movement in there, and you're getting silliness, and you're getting that it's a not serious sit down at your desk meeting right from the first moment.
Yeah, exactly. You can invite people to stand up if that feels good. People can do whatever they want. Some people will be very minimal in their movements, which is completely fine. Some people will be very minimal in their sound, which is completely fine. Just, people can do whatever they want. And what's really wonderful about this activity is not only does it give you a scan of how everybody is feeling right now, but you're literally embodying it. You're feeling it in your body. And so it brings this amazing sense of awareness of how everybody actually is in this moment, which is so easy for us to not be aware of, right? To not know.
Yeah, let me compare that to what I have seen happen on calls, and I've probably led this as well, where type in where you're from and the mood you're in. And that's all nice and everything, but this is so much more cohesive.
Right. It's more like 3-dimensional and
Community.
360, right? Yeah, and community, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we are down to our last 3 questions. Dawn is extremely curious. What about baking powder or soda?
Nope, it doesn't have any baking powder or soda. It's the simplest recipe. It's super easy. The recipe, the version that I use is on, gosh, I think it's allrecipes.com or something. I don't know. I'd be happy to look it up if you want.
We can drop it into the links later. You'll look it up right now. We can drop it in later. Thank you. Very cool. All right. And our last two questions. By the way, I just posted Melissa's website, which is Creative Sandbox Solutions. I just posted that to the links. Melissa, what is one thought you would like to leave everybody with who's been with us today and thinking about this?
You know, I think I encounter people who are afraid to bring play. You know, maybe they have this desire to bring play into virtual meetings, but are a little bit afraid of it because they think, oh my gosh, how are the corporate types going to take it or whatever? And my experience is, yes, there will always be some people who will resist, but most people are so hungry for movement, for fun, for play. We do not get enough of this stuff. So give it a try. Just give it a try.
Yeah, thank you. And the last question. If you could snap your fingers and almost everyone in the world were to take some action, what would you want that to be?
Ooh, play more.
That's such a succinct answer. That so summarizes a lot of what we've been talking about. Thank you. Play more. Okay, so play more and cook this bread. What's the name of the bread again?
It's called Farinata, Farinat.
Play more and cook this bread and let us know how you did. Let us come back to the comments and let us know how you did. Melissa, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.